going to try to connect with Desi.
So they were just waiting for them to let us on.
Yeah. For those of us who were in the school business or are in the school business, that means something special to connect with Desi. Well, that's for me. Actually, I have people on my bad list. So.
Okay.
Hi.
Michelle, I don't know if you can hear us, but we can't hear you. What was the issue before this? What whose connections?
Looks like Bob Busman missed his calling as a network news anchor. I don't think you can hear me either.
But can you use yours?
Here.
They're just not talking.
Rochelle.
Don't you what? Michelle's talking.
Yeah, Christine's.
I can't hear her.
One second.
Hello.
Hey there.
Hi. That sounds good.
All right.
Alright, can everybody hear us on the meeting now?
We can hear you.
Yeah.
You sound great.
I don't know if Mr. Glassman can hear. I think you're muted, Mr. Glassman.
No, so,
Here.
Bob, can you hear us? Sounds like you
It
can.
looks like she's smiling.
We can't hear you, but
You can hear him.
yeah, he's shy. He might
might-
not to say
Yeah,
anything.
he might be on mute though.
He put himself on mute.
Yeah.
Probably.
If you have any questions, Mr. Glassman, since we can't hear you, you can put them in the chat as we go along. All right. So shall we do introductions before we get?
Sure. Why don't we start with I'm Mark Bale. I'm the chair of the Granby Selectboard.
I'm Clive Sexton, a member of the select board.
I'm Tammy Martin. I'm the town administrator.
I'm Holly Young, the Assistant Town Administrator.
I'm Mary Ann Munger, a member of the Finance Committee.
Dave Desolé, member of the Finance Committee.
Jennifer Millette, member of the Finance Committee.
Mary Jane Rickson, Superintendent of Schools.
Oh, Trevor Augustino. I'm here as a member of the public, but I'm also on the school committee.
Okay. And Emily's our reporter from the Daily Hampshire Gazette. We're delighted to have her here.
And momentarily.
I'm Jay Sullivan, Associate Commissioner for District and School Finance. Michelle?
I'm Michelle Griffin. I'm the Regional Governance Coordinator working in Jay's office.
And I'm Christine Lynch, and I'm a management consultant working for the Office of Regional Governance under Jay as well.
Okay. So we've created sort of a short presentation. If I could also, take questions for the end, but maybe the best way to start is to hear why you're looking at regionalization, and then we can kind of go into our presentation. Does that make sense?
Sure. Probably the biggest, I can't speak for the schools, but the biggest reason that prompted the town to come forward and that they started thinking about it on the previous board before I was elected is that our high school building will need a lot of work. We can't afford to build a new high school, as far as I can tell. And our high school was opened in 1963 or 1962, was built in 1960. It's, renovations would be extremely costly. So, that's probably the biggest thing. I don't know that we'd necessarily be looking at regionalization if we weren't looking at some doomsday scenario with our high school. I don't know,
I know that Superintendent Brinkman is here as well. I don't know if there are other representatives from the school department or the school committee
yeah, well,
that might.
yeah. No, this is Jennifer Bartos. She's the chair of the school committee.
We just had, yeah, Jennifer just walked in.
Sorry,
She's here
I'm
now.
stuck in traffic on my way here.
So,
So I didn't know if you wanted to, sort of address regionalization before we get into kind of the stuff that, what regionalization.
she asked why we're looking at it.
Oh, I'm not entirely sure what I'm looking
Okay.
at regionalization.
We could just stick with my answer then.
Okay.
We'll hold pat with that one.
Okay,
We can probably go into that PowerPoint then.
alrighty. Let me just share that with everyone. Let me know. 1 second to share from the right. And I'm gonna go through the slides, but Chris or Jay, I've let them know to feel free to interrupt me if there's something that they want to add, or I miss anything that they're interested in. They think that might be of particular interest to you. So, first of all, we wanted to discuss what is the regional school district. So in the most general of terms, it's a district that is formed by an agreement under specific general laws, which are listed there, between two or more municipalities in order to share educational responsibilities through one regional school committee. Currently in Massachusetts, we have 51 municipalities, 84 regional school districts, 58 of which we call academic districts, and 26 of which we call vocational. Now, the academic districts certainly offer vocational services, and the vocational certainly have academic services, but the 26 vocational were formed primarily as regional vocational districts, so that's why we separate them out that way. Only 54 municipalities in Massachusetts are not in a regional school district. And as you can see, some of these academic districts are either pre-K through 12 or K through 12, some are secondary levels only, and some are partial elementary districts. So potential advantages to regionalization. Some of these come from some of the actual regionalizations that have occurred in the past, I don't know, probably 75 or so years at this point. But there is a single administration, and that sometimes has the potential for more efficient economical operation. There's a single budget. There are combined financial resources which will allow local stakeholders to either maintain or increase educational, non-academic, and extracurricular activities in some cases. There's larger bargaining power when it comes to maybe, school bus contracts and things like that. Increased diversity of student and teacher populations. There may be building and equipment efficiencies. There would be a single salary schedule and teacher unit for teacher negotiations, as well as other staff. You may have, a professional, one contract, one unit. And there is the advantage of state regional transportation reimbursement, which is the program that's run by Associate Commissioner Sullivan. Some barriers that have occurred and may occur is the resistance to change. Sometimes towns don't want to give up local control that they may have. There are concerns for job security. There may be differences in financial support or prioritization of education by the municipalities. There might be concern about potential impact on state aid calculations. Concern about buildings closing and students being transported across town lines. With respect to elementary buildings, even in existing school districts, communities sometimes don't want to close their elementary schools or transport little kids far. And there are concerns sometimes the regional school district may cost more to operate. In terms of key resources for forming regional school districts, as I mentioned earlier, the general laws really guide the process, starting at chapter 71, section 14 through section 16I. And those laws include the forming of the regional school district as well as activities once you have formed a regional school district, such as the budget, how the budget operates, how the towns vote on the budget, things like that. We also have the regional school district regulations at 603 CMR 41. Those are under the process of revision right now. This Board of Elementary and Secondary Education will be voting on September 30th on whether to institute some amendments, which are mostly technical changes and clarifications. I just wanted to make you aware of that. And we have a regional school district agreement checklist that we provide to parties that are not only creating or looking to create a regional school district, but looking to amend an existing regional agreement. Now, of course, we just want to remind you that the generalized regulations also apply to regional school districts, but those that are cited at the bottom are really the ones that are specific to regional school districts. So how can a town become a member of a regional school district? There are ways to establish a new regional school district yourself with a partner in municipalities, or you can join an existing regional school district. So we're going to kind of go through the process briefly. There are details on this slide show, which I can share with superintendent or town manager for sharing out. But there are citations on the left side of the slide for each of these steps. But the first real step is the formation of a regional school district planning committee. And that's usually done after there's been some preliminary discussion, evaluation of the possibility and outreach. Now, the planning committee can be formed either by vote of town meeting or by a majority vote of the school committee and the select board. A planning committee is then appointed, which is an unpaid committee with 3 members, one from the school committee, appointed by the town moderator. And then at the same town meeting or subsequent meeting, the town can appropriate funds to assist with the planning committee. Once the planning committee is formed and potentially funded, planning committees from 2 or more towns can form a regional school district planning board. The regional school district planning board has duties that are outlined in the statute. The major ones, just a general description, are that they study the fiscal and educational advisability of establishing a regional school district. Its adviability of establishing a regional school district, its organization, operation, control, and construction, maintaining, operating schools in certain districts. And then they submit a report to the municipalities that have joined to form that board. The planning board may then also recommend the establishment of a regional school district, which may comprise of some or all of the towns that are represented on the board. If establishment of a regional school district is recommended, then the planning board shall start working on a draft regional agreement, and that would be consistent with the statutes that we share and the needs of the municipalities. At this point, the regional planning board must get the Department of Education involved. Now, you're sort of involving us early on, and we're happy to be involved along all the steps of the way, but at this point, the law requires, and the regulations require, that the planning board has to request in writing something that's called a reorganization needs conference. That's outlined in regulation, the things that are discussed during that conference. But basically, the conference will be a discussion of what is a long-range education plan. So, long-range education plan explains the steps that will be taken or have been taken to date and will be taken towards forming a regional school district. Basically, it's a list of 6 components in regulation and considerations that your regional planning board has probably already considered. The reorganization needs conference considers that plan, and we can do that online or in person, and reviews the long-range education plan. After, and that sometimes also might be more than one meeting, it might be multiple meetings, depending on the issues, depending on whether that was resolved just yet. After we receive a written long-range patient plan, hold the needs conference, will respond, they're going to respond. When I say we, I mean the Office of Regional Governance. That's, currently the people that. We would also direct plan the planning board to draft the agreement. Generally, there's already district agreement that's started, where we have, these kinds of conversations. Again, the agreement has to comply with the general laws, including 14B of Chapter 71, which contains multiple components that every regional school agreement, regional school district agreement needs to be maintained. That's that checklist, those components are that checklist. That regional school, or regional planning boards consider, or regional school committees consider their, amending your agreement. And then you also do some specific reach out to bring it to our office for us to review. We would provide you sometimes this takes the board back and forth, there's usually what terminology, if there are questions, and then regional agreement is finalized. Only once the agreement is finalized, if we say, yes, I believe we could provide a commissioner with a recommendation to approve this agreement, only then would the agreement be submitted to the member towns and then the member municipalities. The member municipalities must then approve the agreement at the town meeting. Following this approval, the commissioner has to approve. In order for the commissioners to approve, we have to have certified votes from municipalities, the member municipalities. Then the commission will approve, again, it's a commission's decision, but we make a recommendation after we have a review at every level, which includes, by the way, review our laws to make sure all laws and regulations are appropriately addressed. Now, if you were to join a regional school district, many of the steps are the same. However, you need to follow the existing regional school district's agreement. Every regional agreement has to contain a procedure for admitting new member municipalities, as well as a procedure for amending its agreement. If a new member municipality is admitted to an existing regional school district agreement, that would require an amendment. And there are timelines regarding approval of actually a new member to a regional school district or a new regional school district. But in this case, if a member municipality is joining a regional school district, we have to get all approvals, municipality approvals, commissioner's approval, no later than December 31st, for the start date of operating July 1. And that's because of the implications, largely because of the implications of state aid. Again, in terms of amending, the process is very similar to the previous slides. I won't go through those again, but I will just note that you can follow whatever process there is in the existing regional school district's agreement. Again, it involves desk review, it involves municipal approvals, and commissioner approval. And joining a regional school district could be delayed for one fiscal year under regulations. So if you get all the approvals in place, time for July 11 start date, it's delay until the fall for July. Other considerations in joining or creating a regional school district often include these things that we've lived in, although there are many others, I'm sure, but communication with community stakeholders, that should be very early. Because again, the municipalities, voters are who has to vote the regional school district agreement. Academic offerings, contracts, buildings for property, you place school, any projects you have ongoing, debt that you have outstanding, or that your partners have outstanding, or your existing regional school district has outstanding. Students who tuition or choice in current districts, liabilities of the existing districts, post-employment benefits and pensions are the big ones. There may be a buy-in to an existing district. And as I said, there are many other considerations, so those are some of the big ones that we hear about. So I've listed the resources. We have a regional school committee, regional school district website, the department's website, page. with a lot of resources, including a couple of guides on forming regional school districts. We have the checklist that I mentioned previously, and I've listed my email address as well as Christine's email address here for your information. Yes, good question. And then wanted to open it up for questions, answers. You have any?
Jen, I don't know if you need the microphone or not. You can just grab it or just.
Sorry.
I don't know if I need to, Jennifer Bartos, Chair of the School Committee. I'm just wondering, could you go back to, I believe it's slide 9 or 10, where you talk about the planning board?
Yep.
So as I'm understanding that, it sounds like when you get to that, you already have to have a partner. Like you have to have a district in mind.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, there is a plan, maybe that's formed prior to finding a partner, but yes.
but even with that, it's already talking about a partner. So if we don't have a partner in mind yet, how do we then do these other things? We need to have our own part first, because I don't believe that we have identified a partner to even have like exploratory conversations with.
Stay conforming, but we'll go ahead, Shane, sorry.
No, I mean, obviously, making it sense that and this is the current thinking. Then part of that current thinking is who would you partner with in order to either form a regional committee or become a member of an existing region.
Okay,
But I'm trying to think that the planning committee would be part of that discussion.
Right, I think the planning committee, before you form the regional planning board with another town, the planning committee would have those discussions, try to explore, is there anybody nearby interested? Is there a nearby regional school district that you could apply to? What other process, Chris,
The other part of this is that I think to some degree, you may have, without formally establishing the planning committee, you're already questioning, it sounds like, whether or not there might be a need to do something different, to operate your school district somewhat differently. So that really is part of the regional planning committee's process as well, to look into, well, why might it be advantageous to us to form a regional school district, to not go it alone, but to actually potentially join with some other district. So you mentioned, the high school needs and things of that sort. So, I think this is basically, planning committee is basically a local committee that says, we're having some difficulty. Potentially, we're having decreasing enrollments. We have a high school building issue. There's other financial matters that might be at play here. Maybe we need to explore another way of operating. So that's kind of what a regional planning committee is. Now, I understand and I agree with what Michelle and Jay both said. Once you get to the point where you're saying, hey, this is worth our while, I think this is worthy of exploration. Then you do start to look at your neighbors and say, well, I wonder if they'd be interested. Do they have the same educational philosophy as us? Or do we want to know at least through discussions whether or not they do have the same educational philosophy as us? So they can begin to explore. And it might be that you'll talk to someone and you'll say, no, we're not really on the same wavelength. But you may arrive at another region that has the same philosophy and the same, let's say, the community itself is similar to yours. So these are things that just need to be explored. So I think there can be work to be done by an individual planning committee. But part of that would be the potential of exploring who might be part of this meeting.
And I think I would just add that there are certain steps that taken, if it's just really your high school. We received a question by email from Tammy Martin about other options. If it is just your high school, there are other options if you decide to close your high school. And those can be explored short of a planning committee. Those can be explored by the school committee itself. there is a law under which you can request an exemption from the commissioner. It's actually from the board, but the board has delegated the authority to the commissioner. Under that law and that exemption, a school committee could request that the commissioner exempt them from offering all grades of education within their town and give the school committee permission to tuition out to a neighboring town. Now, there's a process for that as well. You can talk a little bit about that, but that doesn't necessarily have to be the decision of a planning committee, but a planning committee could come up with that after exploring other options. But as I said, it's good to bring it to the full committee as well.
So would you describe the planning committee as kind of a feasibility study? What's that what we're kind of doing?
Yeah, I think basically, I mean, there is a structured law. You see what the structure is, but basically, you know, in plain language, it's a committee, you know, that it's representative, it's designed to be representative of both the school committee as well as, you know, the town elected officials to look into a possible, potential change. I mean, the default basically, as Michelle alluded to, is that every town provides K through 12 education on its own, within its own boundaries. The exceptions to that are the regional school district law that allows towns to not offer their own educational program, but in fact join with other towns to form a regional school district at various levels. And the other option, as Michelle mentioned, is that a town could opt to not offer education at a certain grade level and request an exemption from the commissioner. And that too, however, would involve searching for an appropriate partner. Well, if you were even to just tuition, not regionalized, you want an appropriate partner. You know, you want a partner that again has the same educational, same educational values and philosophy as you do, or as similar as possible. You know, so that your students will be receiving the education that you think they should be receiving. So it still involves some research and some interaction, you know, with your neighbors in order to determine the best course of action.
Could you,
So there is not understand that in the event that you decide you want to tuition your high school students to another district, you will be responsible for transporting them to that district. And there currently is no reimbursement for that part.
And then if we were to even consider that possibility, we would still be responsible for the people that are residents. So even if they chose to go to a charter school, if they chose to go to a vocational school, if they chose to go to not a private school, if they chose to go to a different school choice, all of those things would still apply at the appropriate reimbursement rates.
That's correct. The town is responsible for that. Yeah.
So if we decided to close the high school, I just want to make sure that this is very clear to everybody that if we chose that avenue, even though we are choosing to tuition out, and I am having a very hard time even saying those words, we're still responsible for our residents. And I don't want that to get lost.
You mean our students?
For students, for resident students.
Yep.
The school age population.
Well, yes.
And another piece of information, I don't know if Chair Chris wants to add to this, but it's that if you have accepted choice students in your town and you close your high school, you're still responsible to tuition those choice students that are in the district as if they are Granby residents to wherever you tuition your high school students. It's treating them as if they're Granby residents. So,
And our special education students as well, right?
Yeah, but I think you get charged back the sending district for some of the special education costs. To some degree, that's okay, but again, the issue is, and the shelf. Let's say you negotiate a tuition of, say, $15,000 for your high school student. If school choice is coming into your district and you only offer education through grade 8. As of grade 9, all of your kids can take it on time at 15,000 each. You'll be paying that 15,000 for all those choice kids, and you'll only be receiving $5,000 school choice kids. Well, each one of those kids will cost you whatever's above the $5,000 in your tuition. You're aware of that. That's the way the school choice law works. And last, secondary level. That's all you need to do. You can possibly neutralize the high school level. If you do, if you neutralize at the high school level, then you are in a K-8 district or a K-6 district or whatever. Then if you accept school choice kids, they're going to commit to them through whatever grade draw. So if you're a K-6 district, those school choice kids keep going to your district through grade 6. And then after that, they have to apply. Oh. They're not necessarily considered to be Granby residents. It's a nuance in school choice, but it's kind of important that you should be aware of.
One of the other things I wanted to mention that's kind of addressed here in this third bullet on slide 8, the town can appropriate funds for the planning committee, which sometimes those funds may be used to hire an outside consultant or do this of evaluation to hold to hold town community forums to figure out if there are partners available, to figure out what the costs would be. So that's certainly if there are funds available. If there is a regional school district planning committee formed, then the town is authorized to appropriate a certain amount to pay the expenses for the planning committee to do that kind of work.
There's typically not anything in the state budget for that.
Right.
But there is a line item in the state budget that has a lot of earmarks. That we can stick on an annual basis. So, talk to your local legislator. If you're looking for state funding for that regard, do something like that. Maybe they can put an earmark in one of those line items. They would budget for that.
I can't remember, does Granby receive rural aid? Or have they received rural aid in the past few years?
Yes.
Very small portion.
Yeah, some districts use their rural aid to do that kind of evaluation as well.
Yeah, let me put it on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we could afford to do that.
Okay.
Yes, it's for the city.
Wait, so
That is true.
Is there a kind of a guidebook or a handbook or something for the planning committee?
They're, go ahead, Chris. It's not you, but it's.
No, it's not think of any guidebook or anything. I was only going to say there was an old document that's still on our website, but it's slightly out of date. It's the text, what is it called? Text of Farming Regional School District or something that I think goes into some level of detail
Okay.
in terms of different things that a planning committee, let's say historically, has done. Is that what it's called?
I have to look it up too. It was created by the Massachusetts Association of Regional Schools.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe a grant from the Chris.
Right.
Maybe 15 years ago, but a lot of it changed. It's is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I think we've seen that document. We've done it.
Yeah.
There's some things, that are, as Drew said, a little bit out of date, but it might give you some additional information.
I'll be honest with you, most of the communities that we deal with that are thinking about regionalization, it's not for the reasons you guys mentioned. High school is old. You don't have the money to build a new one. So what do we do about it? I'm not sure that's come up.
Well,
I think you were called.
well, I will say this, that, yes, I mean, how regionalization started, you know, back in the 50s was basically that. That, you know, that the enrollment, let's say, in a particular town's high school, or district for that matter, but high school in particular, you know, did not necessarily justify the expense of building a brand new one, let's say, when the next town over was in the same position. So a lot of regional school districts initially stopped because it made sense for them with an expensive proposition like high school to join together for the purposes of constructing one regional high school to serve, let's say, two, you know, school districts. So that's how regionalization started.
Yeah.
You know, over the years, it's morphed a little bit, you know, and many of those secondary districts that were still at that way, 12, 7 through 12, you know, expanded their regions over whatever the last 20 years. But it started, you know, 7 through 12, 9 through 12 high school districts because of the high cost of construction. And by the way, at that point, there was a lot of incentive money. But joint high schools, there was a lot of incentive money for forming regional school districts. So that has been superseded at this point in time by the education reform law. And also the construction program has been transferred to another, quasi public agency, Mass Building Authority. So things have changed, but you know, it did start that way.
Yeah, it's not just to replace the high school. I mean, first priority should be our students, but we are having the way local budgets in the area are going. We're looking, I think, at fiscal 2027. Bob, you can nod if I'm correct on that. We're looking at some pretty dark times. Neighboring, two neighboring towns are looking at extreme budgets, shortfalls due to healthcare. They also have had declining enrollment, and regionalization in our town has been living kind of like a zombie life for 15 or 20 years at this point, where everybody said, let's regionalize and that will solve all our problems. I don't personally think that. But if we're going to even do anything with the high school, we're going to have to be able to show the town that regionalization will not work. And it's not an option. And the only thing we have to do is invest in our high school. So there's several factors, but they all are clustered around this, our 65-year-old high school and declining enrollment and increasing costs. I don't have to tell you, Desi, our costs out here increasing. We just had a huge health insurance shock in our communities, like a 20% increase this year. Yeah, so things are getting scary and like quickly. And so from a fiscal point of view, I think, speaking for myself and maybe the select board, we feel like we have to explore this because we don't know what we're going to have for money, and we can't just override taxes because people vote on them. So,
Well, one thing you should understand about regional schools, depending on how many members are in the regional school district, 2/3 of the members vote to approve the budget. The other 1/3 don't. Like, that's not, it's not them having a bank with the other 2/3 vote.
yep. Yeah.
So that, that could be a source subject. So one of the members would put it down the budget, but the other 2/3 voted it.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody who works at Mohawk Trail, and I think they have 18 people on their school committee. And it can sometimes be difficult to get agreement on the school budget.
Can I ask a question about if regionalization was followed through in the community and the towns, we found a partner and they decided to go through, but there's really not a building that can accommodate, and so there's a new building that has to be built. Granby would still be responsible for a building portion, right? Like if there's two districts, it would be 50-50 between the two districts. So
Your part, to give a little bit, or whatever, yeah.
Well, you pay, your share was 3 towns, it's not portion representing a share of that building as opposed to paying 100% of it. Obviously, if you rebuild your owners.
Yeah, and it wouldn't necessarily be 50-50. It would probably be more proportional to the enrollment.
Yeah, right. Generally, every region is different. You have your own districts can determine their own qualifications, the requirements of their regional agreement as to how they want to apportion funds. But most of them use enrollment. So if you represent 30% of the the enrollment, you're probably going to be charged 30% of the, let's say, capital costs.
And then how do additional budget pieces work? So we have retirement benefits, health insurance. We have a district, we have contracts with people. And so this regionalization potentially goes forward. Is Granby still responsible for our previous retired teachers and their pension benefits? So that piece of the budget doesn't go away. So it would be in addition to a new budget.
Yeah, well,
You don't bring liabilities into the district, into the new district.
yeah, your liability, the town will be responsible for those OPEB benefits, say, but you have to hire an expert who would be able to let you know what the cost of those things would be. So that you could, the town would be responsible for that. But then again, if the teachers then all come together and merge on one contract, again, from that point forward, the regional district would be responsible. Again, you're gonna charge back to the town. But from that point forward, the district. There's a lot to go through.
What's a typical timeline?
Probably is very.
Yeah, that's always tough.
So it's not an immediate fix to any budget problems.
Oh, definitely.
And that's why it's probably good you're at least exploring this at this particular point in time. I mean, you were saying that coming up, it's just going to get more difficult and so forth. So, I mean, it's a good thing to explore. There's some changes, no question, in terms of operating under a regional school district versus operating under a municipal, establishment. But it's, there's also some benefits, and it depends what you're looking for, in terms of whether those benefits outweigh, the potential, deterrents. So,
And then my last question is, if we go through all of the steps and the other town doesn't approve, what happens then? And I say that because in the early 1990s, we investigated. I was on the student task force. I went and took days of classes at South Hadley High School. Around that time, there was some bumper stickers that came out, South Hadley, a great place to live. And Granby voted to proceed, and South Hadley voted us down.
Well, we need 2 towns to agree.
Right, so, but if we go through all of this, do you also work in tandem on a backup plan? If the other team doesn't go through? I mean, you're spending money for all of this, do you have to work on, do you see that happen often where the other town doesn't agree and do you have to work on a backup plan in tandem? Or do you then just go back to the problem that you had before you explored it?
I mean, it's hard to work at a backup plan in tandem because, let's say, then you can, there's no law against it. You can certainly say, we're going to have discussions with 4 towns. And we'll talk about educational philosophy and how we might operate, and how we distribute costs, et cetera, et cetera. And then, potentially, all 3 of those, or 2 of them back out. Well, now you have 1 town left. Now, in the same analysis that you did in terms of this would be a positive step to regionalize with 4 towns, would that same analysis hold true for whether or not it's a positive step to regionalize with one town. So, you can do it, but it's very difficult if the members change the towns involved change at the 11th hour. You almost have to go back to the drawing board,
So,
not totally, because there'll be some things probably that you will have learned and will have studied and, but,
so do you see this as usually a more than two town affair?
is it usually more than a two-town affair? No, I would not say so. I think actually most of the regions, I don't know, it's most of the regions, I should know this, but many of the regions are two-town regions. So we could get that number for you, but,
Versus four.
Said they're regulated, yeah.
And in Wilbraham.
Well, it doesn't matter, but town region, it's gotta be 100%.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's,
Supporting another municipality to join forces in terms of education. By the time it gets to the local vote, you should have a pretty good idea of where you stand. Okay? Whether they're involved or not.
That's kind of where the community outreach that we're talking about comes in.
Yeah, so that's a huge part of it, obviously, yeah, no question about it.
but it's possible. I mean, it has happened, in specific uses you question. It has happened. You get to that vote and all of a sudden you find everything was in place and everybody was happy and it's going down. But, I'm both Jay and Michelle said it's often going down because people are unsure. It's easy to vote no when you're unsure of something. So again, the more information you can get out, if you suggest, that's what we're suggesting, the more information that you can get out in terms of the impact of teachers and staff, on administration, on taxes, on, all of that, the better. So that people understand what it is they're voting on and won't not vote positively because they're unsure.
Any finance committee questions?
I do have a question. We can get this from, this slide from the town administrator.
Slideshow?
This
PowerPoint?
slide. Yeah,
Well, that's no thing about the superintendent's floor and,
Okay. All right.
garbage.
And I just tried looking for the, that pathway to regionalization. Could you send a link to that also?
Yep, we can do that.
Exactly, that.
Another question. I don't know how to word this. So in the regionalization, because some of the pitfalls are, it could actually cost more than keeping our schools within our town community. Is there statistics or any information based on the negative impacts this could have?
Well, I guess I'm trying to make sure I understand what's mean by negative impact.
So like financially,
But it means that the partner that you're trying to hook up with, their teacher contract might be a little more rich than your teacher contract?
well, no, the actual cost. So like, we're a small town and we regionalize with another district that's much bigger. I understand the cost is going to be more because they have more opportunities to do things. So when people go into regionalization, and their understanding is that it's gonna either be level funded or it's not gonna cost more than what they're already paying. So what are the outcomes of schools that think or communities that think it's gonna reduce their costs? Do you have any information on that?
I think that's a false premise. 'Cause I can't think of any service that's provided, that in the future is gonna cost less than it costs right now.
I don't think I'm asking it right, so I might email later.
I think maybe if I put it this way, are there schools that go into this and they find that it actually costs more rather than less? Then,
Guess where it might cost more? You have to understand in a regional school situation, everything is consolidated into the regional budget. It's not in the town budget. So you have to have regional treasurer, you have to have a certain accounting staff, you have to do your own, all maintenance, you have to have retirement benefits, you have to have insurance benefits, all of that. When you look at a municipal district, that's all in the town budget, not the school committee budget. Or much of it, I should say, much of it, if not all. So then you start with the two things, I guess, for purposes of comparison. You're looking at, let's say, last year I was an independent district, and now it took us a year or two to become a regional district. And in the meantime, as Jay just said, everything goes up in 2 years. So you're comparing two different sets of years, number one. And you're also comparing two different types of budgets. You know, comprehensive budget. It includes everything. You know, basically to operate, you know, to function, everything you can think of. Versus, again, in a municipal budget, or municipal district, you know, the municipality cuts that. So you go into approve school committee budget, it doesn't include all this costs. So there's a couple of reasons. The other part of it that might be legit, I think, and to the point of what the person asking the question was trying to get at, is, might it be more expensive? It could be, you know, in the sense that oftentimes districts potentially would look to say, we can't afford to offer these kind of educational programs anymore every year because of either declining enrollments or, you know, other costs associated with running the town itself. You know, we have to cut our advanced placement courses, our extracurricular activities or something. So we have to keep cutting our educational services. Sometimes you get into a regional school district and you say, might cost a little bit more. Not as much as if you had to try to maintain those yourselves. But it might cost a little bit more in a regional school district, but you're able to maintain those kind of services that you were worried about having to cut. So because you have a larger grouping, you have another town or multiple towns helping to support the school committee budget, the regional school committee budget, and the types of programs that are being offered. You may benefit educationally. So I'm always hesitant to say the big reason to regionalize is to save yourselves money. Not necessarily. Might not cost a whole lot more, but if you wouldn't go into it with the idea we're paying X number of dollars today, if we regionalize tomorrow, we're gonna save 10% of that. Probably not. You know, if you're closing a building, however, there might be a cost savings. And there's going to be a cost savings for transportation. So in some areas, there will be.
I would just add to what Jay and Chris said, that these are the kind of things that a consultant would study for you, might look at for you. You know, this is our current course selection at X district and at Y district. If we combine the districts, we can offer our current courses plus extra ones, but we'll have the same number of teaching staff, for example. I mean, those are the kind of things that a study might do for you.
yeah, I think
About providing educational opportunities for your residents.
Yeah, I think North Brookfield maybe did one of those studies with TMS.
They did. They have done it less than they did.
They did with Mars.
Oh, they did Mars.
They did with Mars.
Yeah, I think they might have done one with Mars as well, but somebody did one with TMS.
Yeah. I have that. I have that report. Judy Gold did it. Any other
Yeah,
questions?
we can send you some sample reports from other, studies that have been that would be helpful to look at to see, you know, if you reach the point where you say, okay, we're gonna form a committee, or okay, we're gonna study this, let us know, we can send you some board reports. We can't recommend anything.
Yep.
Send you some board reports.
Anybody else have other questions? Are you from Granby?
Yeah, I live in Granby.
Okay, go ahead.
So. Sorry to interfere, I'm not very much. At what point during regionalization would the Department of Education step in to offer guidance or correct the kind of the planning committees go on in some in this farm of some sort?
We are a local control state, sir. If we end up in a spiral, I'm not sure the state's gonna step in and stop that spiral. You know? Again, obviously, we'll try to support you with anybody we can, but there's a limit to what we can do. Right. So I'm not exactly sure what kind of power the environment has to be able to troubleshoot the kind of trouble that sounds like you're anticipating.
I think there are checkpoints along the way, and part of the process.
I was just wondering what this checking was going.
Yeah, we can give you a copy of the PowerPoint when we get it. They're kind of listed in there.
Sorry. Correct. Misconceptions. Because often what happens in a regional situation is people, whatever, they say it's gonna cost $1 million more, that's state aid, it's gonna be, you know, we have to transport every kid from their doorstep on, you know, whatever, which can get around, which can cause problems to say, this is not something, you know, whatever, we wanna be involved in, it's too much state control or something on regional school districts. So, I mean, you know, we can, Jason, we can certainly provide these kind of sessions anytime, you know, you think it would be useful for you. But also, you know, correct sometimes the misconceptions that come up when towns and, you know, people who are maybe not, you know, as familiar with some of these, you know, legalese and everything that we deal with all the time, we can interpret, correct, and explain, and, you know, hopefully alleviate some concerns that might arise over regionalizing. So, but yeah, we unfortunately we're not staffed to negotiate or, you know, get involved in individual districts in terms of troubleshooting or, you know, those kinds of things.
Any more questions? Okay. Thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it. The information was good, helpful.
Well, thank you. Well, keep us in mind if we can help.
We will. All right.
I'll send that information tomorrow.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Well, thanks very much. Have a good night.
Okay.
I'm just gonna throw this out there right now, but tuition sounds like a stupid idea. I don't.
I know John, specifically asked the question about, is there another option?
Yeah, that was it.
So, you know, he would want to know the answer.
I had started that.
That was the one thing it said that I had asked when they said that there was
Yeah.
that was the one that John had.
There's so many moving parts in that. I wouldn't even want to try to figure them out, but that was actually a thought experiment I did 10 years ago. Like I said, geez, I wonder if we could just tuition all the kids out. And it seems to have taken a life. I didn't know it was actually statutorily possible, but it just seems like not a good idea. Seems
Especially with the transportation is not covered, we have to cover it.
yeah, that's a deal breaker right there.
And the other thing is, I don't know what's the requirements of students being on a school bus for how long they're allowed to be on that bus. So it could wind up costing us a lot more.
Yeah.
I think it would depend where they went. Like if it was South Hadley, you know, It's all right on the region. Like people in the, that are in bigger districts, there's some, it's like.
Yeah, so I know, Pathfinder, when my daughter had gone there, she was on the bus coming home. I dropped her off in the morning, but on the bus, she was over an hour.
Because there's a lot there.
I would not take those buses, again, it was for after school.
Yeah.
If I stayed even like 15 minutes late, I'd be on bus before I left before I left.
So,
I don't think anybody's saying we're going to regionalize. I think moving forward, we just need to look at options because we know we're going to be faced with some financial difficulties down the road. And we got to look at options that are possibilities for us to review. So we've done our homework. You know, we're one of our responsibilities, like the school committee, and is preparing for the future. So that's what we want to do. You know, look at what our options are going on now and for the future. And we're gonna have to make decisions, tough decisions. It's reality. And it's unfortunate, but that's just what it's coming to because anything that you hear across the board is, towns and cities looking to spend more money that they don't have. And the state is saying right now, next year doesn't look good for them for fiscal year 27. So
most of the Hamden Wilbraham's the one I know that's of two things. Most of the regional systems. Which one?
Way Bob's too.
Yeah.
I think most of them are too. I don't know.
Frontier.
It's for fields.
Mohawk Trail's like, I don't know how many, but I was talking to my friend today and he was like, yeah, there's 18 people on the school committee now, which is like town meeting.
To your point, Jen, too, when you regionalize, you pick up the costs of the other buildings just like they're our own.
Yeah, so one of the things that I heard I've lived in town almost my entire life, and it's always been a question that's there, is, all right, so let's do it. Let's regionalize. Sounds great. But there's really not a building that could then accommodate every single kid to do it. So you're on the hook for a new school, almost probably.
No. South Hadley High School, and I'm not saying regionalizing South Hadley High School could certainly accommodate the 200 kids we have in the 9 through 12. Same with Belchertown. I don't know about their middle schools, but pretty much.
Well, South Hadley High School is in bad shape too, right? Like they just had this crazy remediation project for mold, and they didn't do all of the things that they were going to do. So, that is bad. At some point when you sign up for it, people that are in this new regional district are going to be like, all right, we're doing this. At some point I don't think there's a way that you're ever going to get away without having to be on a hook for a building.
Well, there is, because if we were to renovate all of Granby High School, we would be the only one paying the cost. If we were to say, I'll just use Belchertown as time so it doesn't sound like we're leaning in one direction. And they needed work, we would only be paying a proportional amount.
That's what I'm saying. There's no way to get.
There's no cost-free thing. It's not. There's no get out of jail free card. It's just,
To make that clear, like there's no easy answer. There's going to be money involved no matter what. And one of the things that I sat here about a year and a half ago and I asked, we were having the same conversation about the high school, is let's get the building inspector to go through the building and tell us where we're at, so we can make a punch list and have activities, 1 through 287. And you're like, okay, let's check things up. We've just done the roof. We've just done the kitchen. We had money earmarked for
locker rooms.
for the locker rooms. Like, we don't know what we don't know for the high school.
We'll make that happen, Jeff.
So
Well, they got some of it.
but like, if we know that, does the high school then not become a more of a feasible idea to look at and say, okay,
We can make that happen. The biggest problems we're going to have with the high school are the same problems that we have with West Street. One is the electrical system is completely outdated, needs to be ripped out. So other things are going to be H, V, and I assume we need AC at some point for the high school. And the third thing is abatement, because there are certainly PCBs in the windows. There were in 2010 when we went for that.
But we don't know that.
Right, Jen?
This is with ADA compliance.
But I think when we looked into it before, the building inspector didn't feel like he's qualified to go through there and start telling you what it needs to be. Actually,
Want to do the building inspector and, there are people out there and.
we'd have to have someone come in there that's what they're,
And tell us what it is, and,
Yeah.
we've had people talk about it, they're in the contracting business, that are out there, and if you do that, a lot of times they'll work with you, they're not gonna say, you're gonna trip this and everything has to be fixed by next week. They're gonna give you a timeline and say, all right, as long as we can see you're making forward progress, we're not gonna fine you, we're not gonna do that, we're gonna try to work with you, because we're not the only place in the world that's having.
and there was some concerns about the certain portion.
It's 30%.
30, yeah, like,
Biggest
and
problem.
everything's gotta be ADA compliant after that point, and
The only bright spot in that I discovered back in December, don't ask me why I was in consultant December, plan on being the select board, is that they're looking at increasing that percentage from 30 to 50 because gateway cities and towns like ours will so easily trip because our property values are low. Or if you're in Cambridge and your property values are sky high, you can do a lot for the amount of money, like 30% of the building's value.
And for some of the ADA stuff, we're not as far behind as people think. We have an elevator, we've changed the doors, the buttons for the doors, we've done some of these little projects. There's, ways of accessibility, ramps and everything to get into the building. So we don't know is all I'm saying. So I feel like if we're gonna pursue one thing to farm out or combine, why don't we pursue another thing to keep in?
We could certainly have the building inspector come, but if you want to have a consultant, I guess we'd ask you guys to do that, come up with a consultant stuff, and that would have to get an appropriation at town meeting probably. But I would have, if you guys look into the, whoever be the appropriate consultant, and then we can propose it at town
We
meeting.
won't do anything in a vacuum because they're not gonna sign us up for anything that's gonna cost a prop,
no, but to your point, Jen, if you're looking at one, you should be looking at the other. You need something to compare it to. It's easy to say, well, regionalizing is gonna cost us this. Well, that's great. You don't know what it's gonna cost to repair the building. You're just assuming it's gonna cost more. In fact, it may not, or vice versa. So I don't think there's anything wrong putting all the information together so you have it at hand to make an educated decision on how you wanna move forward.
And I can sit here very comfortably and say, a new high school is a pipe dream. I think most people recognize that. But fixing the high school doesn't seem like, I just think we haven't explored it enough to know for sure. And there's lots of numbers being thrown around, but no one knows what we're actually at.
Well, we actually could start, right? We could start working by the feasibility study from 2010. That probably has some information.
And then we might be able to go through with the new plans for MSBA and how they are rolling out for fixing programs, fixing buildings and stuff. They put a pause on that for a couple of years, but I think it's 2026 that they reopen that where you get reimbursement at different rates for different projects and things. So they had said to us that, that's what one of the things we should consider is you don't know if you don't know. Make a punch list, try to go through that and see which projects that you have that would then be reimbursable by MSBA.
We'll talk, we're meeting with Tom, our Quillen, our building inspector this week. We can talk to him, but I'll ask you guys to come up with a consultant, all that kind of stuff. I'll personally support that at town meeting. So if we bring it forward. So next step. I think we probably do need a dual meeting and discuss whether we proceed with the planning committee. And if we do have a planning committee, it's a person from the school committee and then moderator appoints the other two people. So
I guess why I'm with that. I mean, if you don't have a town that's even considering regionalizing with us, why would you even get a?
well, you start with the planning committee. That's really what they said. You start with the planning committee, and that's one of the things you explore on the planning committee. But there's like information we don't have, or like Mary Jane and I were just talking about this particular report that I read that I don't know about you, I didn't find that edifying. Gave you all the variables that are involved in, gave you all the variables that are involved in regionalization. It didn't really say, you're gonna spend this much or you're gonna lose this much or whatever. It was, in that regard, I didn't find it that helpful. So if we were to come up with somebody to do a study, I think I would have different parameters than what are the variables involved.
You want to add one more?
It's just another school system did a study. I kind of screwed Brookfield, but it was TMS did it, and
Most of them, they did, Mars did the actually, but most of them.
yeah, Judy Hool, who's a interim superintendent here back last time I was selected, she actually was the person in charge of the study. She sent me the study, and it tells you all the different things that get considered in the process of regionalization, such as if you have to look at the contracts because there has to be parity between, there would clearly be some teachers from Granby that would go to South Hadley, vice versa, or Belchertown. They have to have one contract, so that's the whole thing.
And it typically goes to the higher
Yeah.
district.
Exactly.
And just to be very upfront about it, we're entering into negotiations, the end of this year for all 4 of our units.
I wish you luck with that.
Well, I mean,
I never got to be on a negotiation team. I was lucky.
Hi, welcome to join us.
No, as a teacher.
I think that, it's gonna be interesting for sure.
Yeah, and we're gonna have to have some discussions. I don't have the specifics on the 2027 budget, but John LeBera led me to believe that it's going to be exceptionally grim. And after looking at South Hadley, I didn't even go into depth into the South Hadley's. They had a budget task force, but when I started to see $7 and $8 million deficits, I got alarmed very quickly because they have deficits they couldn't conceivably make up with an override if they could get one.
And that's with a town that has a lot of business and other revenue.
Yeah, we're actually richer than there. Per capita, we are
But I
much richer.
And I think the town of Granby has done well over the years, conservative with their spending money and things like that. I don't think, I think, the big hurdle for us coming up is the insurance. It is a huge amount of money to deal with. We're gonna figure out a way there. I mean, that's just, and then you talk about contracts and stuff like that. Those are things that are coming up for the future that's gonna cost us additional money.
Especially with almost 40%. Well, I think people have to look at the plan design, that's
We are.
just
Yeah.
no question.
We are looking at insurance options. Yes, it's fair to say. And the other thing is, I mean, personally, I think that the insurance situation is so bad that the state is going to have to, I don't know what they can do, but I think they're going to have to step in because it's not sustainable to increase this year 20%, next year 10%, 10%. Something is going to happen because localities cannot solve those problems on their own. We can't conceivably raise tax, even if people would want to raise taxes, we couldn't raise them enough to cover costs, and we can't cut enough and still offer the things we need to offer. So
Right, but do we need to offer the things we offer? I think that's the key question.
I'm talking about faculty. At plan design, then you got to negotiate that stuff. So it gets complicated very quickly.
Well, there are certain things that we need to offer, insurance and things like that, because again, we are a town, almost like a business that's competing to keep their employees. So if people can go elsewhere and be employed somewhere else or not working here, that's enough. And without employees to do the things we need to have done in town, makes things even more difficult.
But I think if you look at the corporate plans, any corporate plan, no health plan is gonna have like no deductible or.
Oh, no, these have gone up a good amount, and even people in the private sector have not seen costs go up like this as far as health insurance.
And it's going to be difference between the public sector and the private sector is collective bargaining. And you're gonna have a very hard time getting your employees to go backwards. But also, like, I mean, I just retired from teaching, but I have a deductible. You know, so it's I don't think plan design is going to get us out of it, and you're going to end up in yeah, you it's all negotiated stuff, and you're just speaking from experience as a teacher, you're just not going to renegotiate people's benefits drastically enough to save money. Yeah, and that's not. I'm not saying that because I want to like preserve our employees' healthcare necessarily. I'm saying it because that's just how it works. When you're dealing with unions, and things can get pretty ugly pretty quickly. And
That's regardless of, sorry, Mark, that's regardless if it's a municipality or it's a private business that has a union in there. It's still, you're still working on negotiations. That's the piece where you're negotiating it. And sometimes it works in your favor, sometimes it doesn't. We see, fortunately, where you talk about corporations, things like that. Well, some of those unions go on strike, and those corporations feel the pain as well. And so does their customers. So there's a lot of just things involved in it. And I think get back into where, we're talking about the schools and things like that. It's an option to look at. Is it a viable option? Maybe not. Maybe it is. But it's just something to say we looked at other options instead of just continuing down, focusing on one thing. We need to look at what are different possibilities for us to move in that direction or not. And if it's something to say, you know what, that is feasible, we might be able to do something like that, or no, it's not. I think what we've done is answer the question for the taxpayers and the people that live in Granby. We've answered a question for them, because we all know when you go to a town meeting, people want answers. You have to have the answers for that.
So you want to plan, you want to reach out by email or something, or do you want?
Yeah, well,
right now? So we can.
why don't we have Tammy and Mary Jane can talk and schedule a meeting.
Okay, so that as I'm understanding, that's really what our next step is before we.
That would be our dual meeting. Yep.
Okay,
And we will discuss it.
so we'll have both, not just chairs, we'll have.
No.
forum.
Full boards.
Great.
So, and if there's any information or anything to push out or whatever ahead of time. Funny thing is, he said something about the building and people don't usually regionalize. I read that somewhere. That's where I came up with the idea. I think it was on that document.
But he said that, but she reverted it back, saying, well, no, that's how it started.
The 50s. I just think that the disconnect is he's saying currently it's not happening for those reasons. Initially, that's how it
Because I
started.
think that's what I read on the.
Reading through, and I saw some of that too. It's like in the history of and how it happened, and it was a way, like you said, a cost saving measure,
Yeah.
but it doesn't really apply for that now, because if you think about what time looked like in the 1950s and how people thought about education and how many
Yeah.
people didn't even, the average age of people getting married was 17.
But what will be the reasons now to do that?
To do what?
Regionalize.
Oh, I'll tell you, man, get married to 17.
But, if it's not financial impact,
So academic,
Academic opportunities.
yeah, so if we have something here and this other school offers an additional, like academic courses, schools will regionalize.
right, but it becomes a financial piece at that point too.
Potentially becomes almost.
But it's to that point, like you said, if you start, eliminating band, eliminating sports and things like that, well, yeah, we regionalize with another school so we can keep all those components that we have.
Yeah.
And move forward. So what's benefiting the student moving forward? You're providing as many options that are possible at that point. Yeah.
In East Long Meadow, we have orchestra, band, chorus, and then this is just music.
You can't say we anymore because you're not there.
So I'll still.
You can teach at high school.
So so there are things that are offered that were not offered elsewhere.
Well, that's so that.
Is there a way to regionalize just services? Like instead of doing like the whole kit and caboodle, could we
talk about with South Hadley and or Belchertown and have a combined music department? I mean, is that something that's possible? Like do shared services as such?
I don't know how you would say, well, I keep talking about money, but yeah, I doubt it. I mean, like you're going to bus kids to,
In schedules.
yeah, I don't think it's feasible.
Well, we don't know.
But to something to that point, like you said, so if and throughout, like Belchertown, so Belchertown says, well, we can't afford a full-time music teacher. Oh, can you split a cost? So
That would be.
20 hours at the Granby, 20 hours there. Those are kind of conversations that are feasible too.
Honestly,
Yeah.
those are things we do try.
Yeah.
So I know like, for special ed, they did that.
Right.
The, services, they combined services with the different school.
And then we stopped because they were more expensive and we were getting the higher rates, so.
Yes, that's the other, aside from insurance, the special ed costs have ballooned. If you send people, most people don't know, but if you have to send a kid out of district or to send a kid to residential, you could be talking like, I don't know,
440,000.
is that for residential
That's for one student, 440,000.
a year?
Yep.
So I mean, this is,
Shortfall 2 years ago of 580,000. 440,000 of it was one student,
I remember that. Yeah.
which I'm glad that
kid needs services, yeah. Yeah.
you need services, but when you start looking at some of those things that's where I wish the state would get involved was, help us out with some of the special education, the mandates that come.
They've been pretty cheap on the circuit breaker funds.
Yeah, or just like, your hands become tied.
Yeah, I mean,
And we want to help kids. That's what we're here for, right? For the education of our kids. So you want to find
Right.
the appropriate placement and help the student and the family and the child be successful. But when it comes with a price tag that for that one child would give us a whole language department with multiple teachers.
yeah.
Here, it's hard to
Like you said, you wish that the state would step in and say, we
just
need to
help reimburse some of
figure out a
that.
way to,
They may have to look at, some deregulation. Jay there said, oh, we're a local control state, but when you start to look at the regulations,
That's the chapter 766 came out, I think by 1972. That's not going anywhere. That's protected by the ADA. That's I wouldn't want that to be
unfunded
too
mandates.
That's
That's the word. Thank you.
yeah. Part of the problem is like special ed when it first started out was pretty basic, and as it's grown, you've ended up with more and more severe, kids that are now being taken care of. I mean, they used to be just warehoused at like a place like Belchertown State School, and now we do. We have a lot of kids in school now that you and I would never have seen when we were at school at all. So we have a lot of services have increased, but they've also needed to be increased. There's more demand. I mean, I'm astounded sometimes at the number of kids that we never had the degree of autistic kids when I was in school that we now have.
I think they've always been there. We just didn't see them.
I think some of them, like the Asperger's kids maybe, but I mean, I've seen more and more all the time. Kids who were actually like very needy. So, and I don't know if they were out of district and they've been brought in for savings, because even transporting kids to a different school to get services ends up costing money. So,
Yeah, we have that too.
so
And the problem isn't just Granby. All these other
Right.
cities and towns are having it. They're having
For
it.
that we're not alone.
No, there's,
no, I mean, I think the cuts in Granby have been more obscured than in other towns, because I think you've done it through attrition more than
Some attrition, but some there is actual loss of positions. It's just we've been doing a good job trying to fill in, and then we've gotten grants to take up different things. So
you know, the course catalog overall looks pretty decent when you look at some of the things, but we are missing some of, you know, missing other things.
So this was the first year. Probably people will get sick of me saying I was teaching in East Long Meadow for 32 years, but this is the first year, 32 years. We cut people at the end of last year. Yeah, once in a while there'd be something pink slipped, but there were actually elimination of positions, multiple pink slips. And it was all the superintendents got together and talked about it, right? In 1 month. And what South Hadley, if Belgium hadn't passed that override, they would have cut 43 positions in 2 years. Yeah. So, I mean, and that's like, I tried to explain to some people, and I'm like, you don't understand, it's catastrophic if you cut that many people in the school system. So, things are frightening, but I mean, I think we have to be honest with people and not promise things. Like you said, there's no silver bullet when we were talking earlier today.
Even to the point of overrides, they're a short-term answer to a long-term problem.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, I don't.
As cost keeps on going up, they're gonna need more money.
Well, I mean, like with South Hadley, the thought in South Hadley is an override's not even gonna cover. They're still gonna have to make incredibly deep cuts. Not just education, like across the board.
Police, they're estimating for police officers. I don't know what else involved in the police department. And they're much more heavily invested into the Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust than Belchertown. I think if either one of them is able to get out of that group insurance trust, the group insurance trust would be in very tough shape.
So one question that I had, just to make sure that I think I'm on the same page of what you're all thinking, is are we looking to pursue the community, this board, exploratory board for pre-K to 12 or 7 to 12 or 9?
I think that's our planning committee. We look at all
What
of
the
them.
charge
Yeah.
is?
So, but just to like, I haven't gone through the process in depth, but there's like a series of votes, and the planning committee is not in any way binding. I think to pursue the planning board, I don't know if that actually required the town meeting vote or not.
I think that slide said that it did.
So,
Either that, or I think it's
Yeah.
the conjunction of the school committee and the select board, the majority.
And so before we do any of that, before we give that board the charge, we need to understand, because we still, I think, have a loan on East Meadow.
oh yeah, we'll have that for
So-
another 15 years or so.
So I believe if you choose to not use that school in the capacity that it was, I can't put my finger on it, but when I went down the rabbit hole in conversation and looking through stuff, I just want to make sure that we don't end up having, to pay back at a different rate, because there was questions about that when we were talking about moving 6th grade from East Meadow. There was a trigger point there that if we didn't use the school, Jen, do you remember?
So it was a focus on when the school was originally planned and the purpose was K through 6.
Mhm.
They wanted to move 6th grade, which changed the purpose of the.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, because the state has said we've already given you money for that grade.
Right,
So
so we did have to be careful. There's some kind of a stipulation within that, so I just want to make sure that essentially your charge, know what that fine tooth comb look through of that is, so that we don't give a planning board a charge that's gonna end up costing Granby additional money, because they're gonna make us reimburse, and we can cancel that reimbursement.
So that would be a planning committee problem.
Right, but I'm
to
just
solve.
saying, I think the select board probably needs to look into Tammy would have to look into the nitty gritty of what that loan
Yeah.
thing is, because we don't wanna sit down and have a planning board come up with a charge that's gonna end up having, you're changing the use of.
Right, to your point that,
So, I mean, all that stuff should be, before you go to the planning board stage, you should know all the answers to those questions.
That's what I'm saying, is that, but there's a little bit of a niggle there. I'm sure I'm not being very eloquent about it, but there was something that when we were talking about that it raised eyebrows and questions because we are changing the use of the school. And so if you decide to regionalize and we are pulling Granby students out and going to different places, we just have to be careful that if we're not using the school.
I know what you're saying, because the state gave you X amount of dollars to fund a school.
Right.
So if you're not using that school anymore, if you decide to do something else, are you on the hook for everything
And
now?
it might be immediate payback of the outstanding balance of the loan, or you lose your reimbursement rate.
This is affected by the,
By the change in.
but it's the MSBA that would be in charge of that.
Yeah.
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 That might be worker, might be, but honestly, I have a hard time seeing them, even if we regionalized the elementary school, I have a hard time seeing the kids being moved out of it. You know, I think that school building would be,
Well, if you regionalize pre-K to 6, we physically don't have enough room to bring another town's worth of kids into that building.
well, they have their own schools too. But
Yeah.
you wouldn't necessarily have to you could have, you saw in Meadow, we have 3 elementary schools.
You could regionalize just your high school, 7 through 12.
Facts, to consider, so that if we have, the planning board gives a charge, the two boards concerned give a charge to the planning board, that we make sure that we understand all of the intricacies so that we don't set ourselves up for something that.
I think there's gonna be a planning committee before there's a planning board.
I mean,
Yes.
And another town is not gonna be involved in the planning committee.
I'm not saying that.
well, no, the planning committee will actually reach out to other towns to see if they actually consider regionalizing with us. That's I mean, that's not even an option. I don't know how you move forward.
I think that Michelle said that Mindy Downey might be able to get earmark some money to hire a financial analyst.
Yep. They've provided money to other school districts for that.
It's not very much.
No, but unfortunately, we missed the budget cycle.
But I'm not sure it costs that much either, so.
So let's, there's a supplemental budget coming up. They had that opportunity.
So it depends on what you're looking for, but it can get pretty pricey quickly.
Oh, the studies?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah, this the information you want to know, I can imagine that's the case, because it is actuarial. It's not
Yeah.
this report I read. I was like, well, should they regionalize or not regionalize? Doesn't say. It's like getting legal advice, the lawyer just tells you
And
things.
I
You
guess
have to
it
figure out
depends on how each individual interprets what they're reading, on what their outcome is.
They're going to provide you with the information.
Yeah.
It's you that need to make a decision what makes sense for you.
So I know when I was on the school committee, we had reached out to surrounding areas just to get a sense of what the communities felt. Now, it may be different now because of our circumstances, but I know we had reached out before. They wanted to collaborate with services, but not necessarily regionalize.
Directed by the Collins Center, who we were told by MSBA, because the town doesn't have the appetite for a new school. They said we should talk to the Collins Center, who is affiliated with UMass, and they help. They do a lot of consulting. They're very involved in education. So Stephen, and I can't remember if it was Todd or Adam Tartini. I think it was Adam. Had a meeting and they told us send out has to be considered an informal survey because you're not under charge of any board. And we did that. We did 13 surrounding towns and districts, and not one was interested in even having a conversation about regionalization. And this was a few years ago when Ludlow was in a really bad situation. And the only thing that we heard back was talking about shared services. That was with Hadley. We tried that, but then we had to end the agreement because they were at a much higher rate. So the part-time part that we were getting, we did better funding a position for our own budget.
Yeah,
It might have been 11 districts, not 13.
yeah. So I told you to send out a letter.
So we did. We said we had I'm sure we could probably
Yeah, Glenn, you were still on at
Yeah.
that point. We, you know,
Remember that?
we were directed to do so and then, it,
Yeah, like when you were in high school and I was newly married and living in South Hadley and they tried to regionalize, I think things have changed a lot. Given like the last 2 years of budget crunching, I think people have much more of an appetite for
A lot of it weren't, that was just a couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago.
yeah, it's maybe 2 years ago.
So
It wasn't that long ago.
yeah,
Things have changed, and as you said, the future for some places look a little different than they did 2 years ago as well.
I
So
still remember South Hadley. My neighbor was on a school committee, changed his vote from not regionalizing to regionalizing, and somebody punched him in the face outside Food Mart. He moved to Long Meadow. But that was like, it was embarrassing because we'd be there. We're from Granby. We're living in an apartment in South Hadley, and people would, say disparaging things about Granby. And it was like,
My dad lived in South Hadley. My stepsister and I were the same grade, and it was fascinating.
but I think that it's not the same anymore. I don't think there's the snobbiness. And I did a lot of, over the summer, I did a lot of number crunching and some interesting things about Granby is that our median income is significantly higher than South Hadley's. The top quintile of, percentage-wise, our top quintile of family household income is higher than South Hadley's. When you start to look at South Hadley's costs, they have a lower tax rate, but they also pay sewer, water, fire. So they actually got a lot of extra costs there. So it would be very hard for anybody to say that we're just a bunch of dumb farmers like they did 30 years ago. And I also think that there's a lot more people from South Hadley who moved to Granby and probably vice versa. And the way that kids connect today is much more transmunicipal. My kids are talking to people of their towns. I never would have known those kids. So I think that, a lot of that 35-year-old stuff I don't think that's the case anymore.
Oh, I'm.
No, but I mean, I feel your pain is what I'm trying to say. It was an unpleasant experience.
It was terrible. But South Hadley, a great place to live. Those bumper stickers came out.
Yeah. So I think things have changed quite a bit since then.
So, I mean, I just,
and I know Belchertown talked about it. I don't know what their level of enthusiasm is at this point, but after
I don't think they know really where they're at based on people I know that live in town with kids in school.
Yeah.
I think they're just as uncertain as all of us are.
Yeah.
But they were, they just got a newer school there and they're looking to close one of their older schools.
Cold Springs is
And
getting
they want to regionalize within their own district, like change how they school kids. Is what I'm understanding.
So they had mentioned that, I don't know if they pursued it or the information there. We have to be able to make the argument. We have to prove that regionalization was like less of a benefit than, staying put. So.
Do it.
All right. So thanks for coming. I don't envy you. I know it's difficult to be working at a school and working for a school and having to look at big changes like that. It's not pleasant. But I don't know. And we have to look at her financial outlook, but her financial outlook, it scared the bejesus out of me when I was talking to, and I don't think John was exaggerating when he said 2027 was going to be a bad fiscal year. And I mean, last time I was on the board, we were still using a lot of stabilization funds to stabilize the school budget. And now we're at the point where we don't have the money in stabilization to stabilize much. I think we're down to about 3 million total.
So please don't take this as split, but when are we gonna have conversations about things beyond the school to fix the town? Like, talk about changing infrastructure or, doing projects that might be benefit, looking at changing the electricity vendors, looking into solar fields. I volunteered this high school brand new roof and things like that at Smith and Wesson or whatever, solar over that and doing a project where
Well, as I told you this morning, we're looking now we're very preliminary talks about regionalizing dispatch. That's a big thing. Other things, I don't know if you haven't sent them to me, but I've not looking forward to working on this project. I also have trash coming up that I have to deal with. So we've got a lot of stuff on our plate. So
I propose, we had one several years ago, I think it was like my first year, so like 7 years ago. But planning board, select board, finance committee, school committee, having like a joint and talk about like town strategy, 5-year plan, 10-year plan, 15-year plan.
I wouldn't mind appointing people from those committees. I would hate to be in one of those things because I'd be like 20 people.
Well, no, it was
Just representatives.
representatives and from, representatives from each.
No, I think it's a good idea. I agree.
I just think at some point we have to kind of attack it. We can't be on the defense anymore. We have to kind of come out strong on the offense.
Well, I don't think we've ever had a budget projection more than 1 year out. And I don't think in town, I just don't think we have the capacity to do a budget task force like they did in South Hadley. I just don't think we have enough people. But we should have a budget projection for more than just next year's fiscal year.
Do we ever look at like the past? Like, I know like COVID, there was, added expenses, but then there was increased revenue due to certain grants.
The ARPA funds.
I did that. Just when I looked at the annual reports, there's never a comparison to figure out actual comparison, to figure out what we've done, where we've come, what our added costs. So we always just looked at that 1 year and they were just projected amounts. They were never actuals. So it's hard to make any decisions based on just projection.
It's hard to predict to a certain point because you know what your tax base is. Your tax base is not going to change dramatically. It's going to change a little bit, but not much. So you can forecast, and I think Chris Martin used to do a good job of this kind of forecast. All right, we understand that we may increase 3 or 4% for fiscal year 27. Okay, well, you look at that. Do you look at what your revenue coming in is that, and that what you're anticipating revenue going out? So, as you said, when there's contract obligations and things like that, those are the things that you're planning for the future. So I know that I'm just throwing things out there. So that next year, the police department, fire department, and school department are all getting 3% raises. So you got to look at that as, again, planning for that year to come out. Okay, so fiscal year 27, we know just the cost of employees is going to cost us $1.2 million more. So you're hoping that the revenue that you're going to bring in is going to cover that. That's what your shortfalls. Sorry, Mark.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
The shortfalls come is that you have more money going out that's coming in. There's fees and taxes are a way that the state and the municipality raise funds.
But then, it's once I get past my fingers and toes, I'm not a numbers guy. But one of the things I think I've learned about like finances and stuff is that you should actually use numbers. So even if you're just projecting or even if you're just guessing, you should try to do that. And we haven't done that. I think that would fall under the finance committee's.
I disagree, Mark. We do that. And the town administrator does that every year. And what they work and the work
talking about
finance themselves.
I'm not talking.
Oh, well, I think it's hard to figure 5 years out. It really is. I mean, the state can't even figure that out.
Well, you make assumptions. That's exactly what South Hadley just did. And even if the numbers don't turn out to be correct, you have things to monitor and stuff. And that's
well, again, to that point, there's an amount that a town brings in through taxes and fees. You can estimate how that's going to go. But again, that all depends on the housing market.
But that's the revenue. But you also have to look at the expenditures.
So that's why I said the other piece is expenditures. There's certain things that you're locked into that are, contractual or, raised and things like that with unions, you're gonna have to pay those out. So that, as I said, town employees is gonna cost you $1.6 million more for this fiscal year, and I fear that we've been at a part where, home values have increased. Eventually, those are not gonna increase anymore. They're gonna start going the other way. And that's when you're gonna start feeling the additional money, the money's not coming in. They just put to it. So now you and I think that's what some of the other towns are saying. You can't spend more than you bring in at one point. And that's where you have the shortfalls.
What we could do though, Glenn, and what, like an analysis where you would make assumptions about all those factors you're talking about, like, property values or prices and you could drive a bunch of different projections. You could have like a range of projections. If this happens, then that.
Yeah, well, right. Well, they're projections. They could be close. They can be completely wrong.
Yeah. But if you have a bunch of them with different scenarios, you get some kind of a.
For example, I know how many years ago did we pass an override for,
Trash.
yeah, town waste collection? That no longer is going to cover it just because the cost of waste disposal is just every year it's increased.
I think,
inflation has just gone through the roof too, and there's nothing we can do on that end.
but yeah,
There's no easy fix to any of the problems that face us, that's for sure.
that's what Mary Ann's saying is that what you're thinking, Jen? Saying along the same lines?
Not scenarios, we have a given. So your personnel is always your biggest cost. You
Yeah.
have your fixed costs, which that's your buildings, electricity and everything. So if you estimate that they're going through contractual negotiations and then they're going to come to an agreement, and if it's 3 years out, you know what those 3 years out is.
Yeah.
We have revenue. That would be fixed in the sense that we know we have taxes that we have to collect. And then there's a percentage of uncollectible that you have to factor in. So those are all the given. And then there's the actuarial piece where there's an expectation of cost increasing at a certain percent. So those type of projections will give you a shortfall of,
Yes.
all right, this is our expected income, these are our expenditures.
So, I think it's the finance committee's job to do that. Whether they've done it before or not, I don't know. I don't know where the information like for that kind of stuff comes from.
So when you go into DLS Gateway, you have to fill out a whole tax rate recap, and on page 3, for example, you have to do the actual and you do the estimates, and you estimate how much revenue, for example, you're going to get. Technically, ultimately, like Glenn was saying, expenditures needs to equal revenue, so you get a balanced budget. And when you do all that, exactly what Jen just said, that's exactly what they're projecting. You got to take out what you're projecting. So it'd be like all of us.
Well, we've never done that before, have we?
I've never seen it.
Yeah.
I would just go to the website to see, like what our expected, whatever's on the website for Granby. Cause I'll go to see what our revenue is expected, and it has to do with school choice and then school choice in, school choice out. To get what our revenue is outside of our income. And our expected.
Did you want more information than that?
Well, we've never actually, like, when we have our finance meeting, it's approving budgets.
Yeah.
And I always like to look to see what changes happened that created an increase or a decrease. And normally everything was, this is what we budgeted last year, this is what we're budgeting this year. But I don't know based on what were the actual expenses.
So I know when each department head comes in and presents their budget, it's based on what their budget was last year, what their budget is this year, and the reasons why their budget have increased. They have a line items that they go through each particular area.
But you want something more like longitudinal, is that the right word?
Well, you have a budget to budget comparison, but there's no actual comparison.
So you're looking for like, for example, FY '24, this is what we actually budgeted for. And then you want to know like FY '24, what did
What
we actually spend? We could, do-
What was the variance in that?
you wouldn't know like from like this year though. It'd be the previous year.
Correct, the previous year. So now when we're on FY '27.
We know they spent less than what the budget, what they were given, because if not, they'd have to go back to the town for additional money.
Yeah, but how much?
Well, it hasn't happened, it happened with the fire department. Where we had to go back, they think they spent more than what was in the budget at one point. Yeah, but like that, but most of the time, I mean, and I say this, but I think a lot of the town budgets or town departments do well, holding to what their budgets are.
Well, I don't think she's complaining about that.
No, but I know, but I'm saying is I think I know what you're saying. So if you were their budget's allotted $50,000 this year, we only spent 40,000. Well, why should we be giving you 3% more for the next year if you only spent 40 to 50? That kind of what you're saying, or
Well, they could have not purchased something.
right?
So it probably has nothing to do with personnel. It just probably has to do with, like, they budgeted for an item that they didn't get. So it's
Yeah,
down.
and to that point, a lot of that information comes out when they present their budget to the select board.
Oh, yeah, but we,
What if it's not?
That we
And
have.
it does go back. That's how you end up getting started free
Yeah.
cash.
but we can provide that information that she's looking for.
You can get a report of what all that is.
Because I know just sitting here for a while that that those are what, if you see something that's not there, they'll, well, we didn't spend money on this because we didn't have, the contract wouldn't allow us to do that until next fiscal year or whatever it may be. Or the service costs us X amount of dollars less because of A, B, and C. So that does happen. I know, I think it happened with maybe the police department, or things for whatever reason they had to wait for the next fiscal year because of a contractual thing, but
Jen, did you have a question? You can also leave anytime you want, and nobody will be offended.
Bring it back to a regionalization question. So we have like shared services between the town and the school department for like mowing and plowing and
Yeah, it's like in-kind
the
expenses.
in-kind
Yeah,
expenses. So when you're thinking of a regionalization agreement, how would that?
it's all worked into the agreement, what you agree
Yeah.
upon.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, yeah, we'd be paying part of the cost. Presumably, I mean, we're gonna,
We have still Granby Public Schools, right?
Yep.
And so we still have East Meadow or whatever.
Yep.
There would still be that, and then we would still be responsible for other stuff. So
we'd only be responsible for East Meadow. But if the high school were vacated,
well, that's not necessarily true because in Amherst, where they have the Amherst Pelham Regional School District, each of those surrounding towns has pre-K to 6. And their regionalization is only for 7 through 12.
so it would depend on your agreement.
Each school, each surrounding town where that it's not pre-K to 12.
I thought you were talking about the high school building.
No, I'm talking about like, you may not get away from some of those in-kind expenses because if we don't regionalize the little thing, you're still gonna have
Yeah.
in-kind expenses, but you might also have to then have in-kind expenses for the.
Yeah, that would be like something like the planning committee would look at and have to try and come.
Yeah, I think we'll get to like
Reality is-
K through 12 or
You still gotta plow the parking lots, you still gotta cut the grass, those things just don't go away because they're not occupying a building.
Okay.
Yeah, and the town would be responsible to maintain the high school if it were vacated, so.
All right, so I just want to are we through with potential regionalization discussion?
Yeah,
I
And
think
I
so.
want to make sure that the action will come from you all
the
for
executives.
okay, great. And we'll come up with, will it just be us or also finance committee?
I think it should probably just be us.
Okay, great. So we'll get on that hopefully soon so that we can start to make head.
Yeah, because, finance committees, it's not really their
I
thing.
found it interesting though that the moderator appoints 2 people.
See, the moderator's supposed to be like a neutral body. So that's why.
That's why,
And
that
she-
makes sense. Huh?
And we have her for personnel.
Yes,
That's something else, right?
finance.
Finance. Yeah, so the idea is like to kind of remove a political level from it.
But they're elected.
Yeah, but they're like, we're gonna say, well, we're regionalized. They're gonna say, we don't want to regionalize. So you have the moderator who there's at least a shot of the moderator not being biased and like trying to pick out the appropriate people.
Okay,
All right.
is it fair to leave them?
Oh, anytime you want.
Anytime you want.
You're not in prison.
Nothing's holding you here.
All right.
I appreciate the discussion. I do. I think it's gonna be a bumpy road no matter how it goes.
We're gonna do our best, and like the most important thing is that people have what they need to know to make the decision they want to make.
Right.
It's not about not about what I want, not about what you want. It's what the people of Granby want, and we have to make sure that they have what they need to make that decision.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Jake.
Thank
All right, have a good night. All right.
Well, let's get moving. It's one of our longest meetings, Mark.
Yeah, I know. Well, last one was like 20 minutes, so we're even in it a little bit here. All right.
So the one I wasn't here for is 20 minutes, that you telling me?
Yeah, and we talked about you for the whole time, so it's I know it could have been 1 minute, but all right.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Mary.
Thank you.
All right, town administrator, go ahead. Report.
So, well, we know today we have our new assistant town administrator, Holly Young. It's her first day today.
Welcome.
Welcome.
To get her on camera. On camera.
Yeah, somebody knows. See, she is.
If you go into our office, you will probably see her.
Yes. And just an update. So we're still working on our payroll for Harper's. We're hoping by the middle of October that'll be up and running. Vader, the town accountant, and myself and Steve have been in a lot of Zoom meetings, just trying to get training and making sure we're getting up to speed on that as well. And we are catching up on all our warrants for invoices, and we're thankful for that. So that's all I have. But
Yep.
we're moving forward.
All right, good. You want to make a motion to accept departmental reports?
I'll make a motion to accept departmental reports.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. I think you're stuck with the maintenance warrants, all right?
What? I always make a motion as I push them out till it's me.
We're not paying anybody this week.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve a bill payable warrant number 7, dated 7/25/25, in the amount of $126,334.85.
Second. All's in favor?
Aye. We just go through them, then we can sign them. Sorry, again.
Okay.
So, into a list. I'll make a motion to approve a payable warrant, number 2610. This is from August 26, 2025, in the amount of $110,914.62.
Second. All's in favor?
Aye. Another payroll warrant, for, it's like, 26-17, dated September 12, 2025, in the amount of $462,639.30.
Thanks, Trevor. Second. All's in favor? Aye.
Aye. This one, in the, select board salaries?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the $50,000.
So, I'll vote myself out of necessity for select board.
Yeah, what he said. All's in favor? Aye.
Aye. Sick, right?
Kind of jealous of your signature. You got a good G there.
Look at these ones here.
Very elegant.
They have a spot. I'm gonna actually sign the names of these ones.
Okay. I'll try and get it right this time.
We actually were able to get that because Beta showed us how to insert them.
But you gotta admit my L is pretty good.
It is good.
It's like it's MD worthy. How's your vacations?
Excellent. Excellent.
Where'd you go? Should we fall?
I'll start to Disney World,
Oh, cool.
where we went down to Vero Beach in Florida. Very nice time.
I went to a silent election this weekend.
Say much?
I got 2 dog whistles and a mine. Tammy didn't think that was fun. My wife didn't either. When I retired, they gave me a book of dad jokes, the kids did. So, last thing I did before I left, ended my career, was I went on the intercom and read dad jokes. One day I said one, we were at the playground in Dr. Town. There's a thing you speak into the tube and it goes all the way around. And my grandson was on there. I go, what's red bad for your teeth? And this little girl like goes, a brick. Actually knew the punchline. Like tells you like the grade level of my humor.
All right. Next.
All right, what do we got here? Approve and sign a contract for McClure Engineering, and Tammy will tell us about that.
So this is for 14 West Street. It's, the well was decommissioned 7 years ago. So we contacted DEP. This was actually done in 2023, but they was never sent in. So we can have water tested and all set to go. And it's going to they're going to work on the well and everything. So and once I contacted DEP, sent us the consent order. The consent order was sent over to McClure Engineering. And now we just have to sign off on that so we can have a public water. Right, so it's not, make sure that's all set for the
Water supply.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's we are going with McClure because we already use them for our public water supplies, and we don't have to go out to bid.
Okay.
Yep.
Makes sense. All right. I'll make a motion to approve and sign the contract with McClure Engineering Inc. for professional services agreement.
Second, all's in favor?
Aye.
All right, we had some appointments to affirm.
And there should be 3 of them there.
Different side.
I don't Dave gets to be on the top on this one, huh? Probably because it's old.
Why would he be on the top? Though?
I don't know. But it sounded good to me at the time. I'm new to the board, comparatively speaking. I don't know, maybe Kathy's mad at me. Who knows? Maybe I'm like, I'm the base of things here. Holding everybody up. All right, so affirm some appointments.
All right.
So in the zoning bylaw that you're looking at, is that the one you're looking at, Glenn?
Yeah, is that all, everybody?
So no,
Oh.
what you're going to do is you need to pick one person from above and make a motion on it. Who you're choosing.
Oh, it's Chair Pro Tem, so
Yeah.
just for start the meeting. So. Oh.
I think we'll just do it, police chief. Or not?
Yeah,
I mean,
that'd be, yeah.
I just think,
I Yeah, why not?
I mean, it doesn't matter who, it's gonna be someone set the meeting on, so they can choose whoever they
Yeah,
want.
I second that motion.
All right, so our motion is to, have, the police chief, Kevin O'Grady, be the pro temp chair for the zoning bylaw update committee.
Second, all's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Let them know the good news, will you?
I will certainly let him know.
I'm sure he's happy to be on another committee.
All right.
So, the police advisory committee, we have somebody applying to go to for an increase in rank, and he is on the police advisory board,
The
so we
waiver.
have to do a quick change.
It's just for September 29th to October 3rd.
Yeah, I saw the email from, so I'm gonna make a motion that we appoint Jason Richard as a non-voting member of the Police Advisory Board for 1 week, the week of September 29th through October 3rd, 2025. If anybody wanted, it's because currently Officer Gilly is interviewing for sergeant positions, so he's not able to sit on the meeting at that time.
Okay, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You didn't like that line part?
No, I got that.
Yeah.
Well, I said, did you talk to me? But
Yeah.
what's this?
So that one that you're looking at is you're going to be appointing Evan, like for example, the first, I think she highlighted it all for you, Evan Bryan for Hazard Mitigation Committee. You just look down, the next one is the Granby Forest Warden, that's all of them. Just gonna point them all.
Claim from multiple positions.
Oh, is that what? Yeah.
Yes.
So,
We got cultural, first we got cultural council.
what's the order? It's Brian. All right, a lot of different things that Brian's doing here. I'll make a motion to appoint, I'll go one by one in case there's anything we don't want to be part of. Appoint Evan Bryant to the Hazard Mitigation Committee.
Second. Is that what I'm gonna do?
Yeah.
Okay, all's in favor?
Aye. Make a motion to appoint Evan Bryant to the Town of Granby Fire Chief.
Second. All's in favor? Aye.
Aye. I'll make a motion to let's just certify Evan Bryant to the Town of Granby Forest Warden. Term ending June 30th, 2026.
Second. All's in favor? Aye.
Aye. Make a motion to certify Evan Bryant, the Hampshire Regional Emergency Planning Committee, to a term ending June 30th, 2026.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll make a motion to certify Evan Bryant, the appointment to Town of Granby Local Emergency Planning Committee, to a term ending June 30th, 2026.
Second. All's in favor?
Aye. I'll make a motion to certify Evan Bryant, appointed to the Western Mass Regional Local Emergency Committee, to a term ending June 30th, 2026.
Second. All's in favor?
Aye. Make a motion to certify Evan Bryant to be appointed to the Director of Ambulance Services to a term ending June 30th, 2028.
Second. All's in favor?
Aye. To appoint Evan Bryant to appointment to the Town of Granby Harassment Officer for a term ending on June 30th, 2026.
Second. All's in favor?
Aye. Make a motion to certify Brenda Lee Mara to a town accountant by the Town of to term ending June 30th, 2026.
All in favor?
Aye.
I think I seconded it too. Yeah. Take my word for it. I seconded it.
This is a certified Jason Richards to the Police Advisory Committee, a non-voting member, town administrator for a term of September 29th through October 3rd, 2025.
Second, all in favor?
I
Okay.
last is to appoint Adam Sweet to the Town of Granby Cultural Council.
Second.
Term ending June 30th, 2027.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
We got some minutes to approve. We got to discuss swearing in the chief.
Yeah, so for the minutes that are approved, you weren't here, Mark, for
Yep.
first three?
So we can't do it.
Yeah, you have to,
Yep.
I would hold them until, we can only do the last
Yep,
one.
that's fine. All right. We're talking about scheduling a fire chief swearing in, which is a bit of a ceremony.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, Fire Chief came in today and he was talking to Kathy about it, and he said that September 27th at 10 a.m. at the fire station would work, if that works for you.
Okay.
Say the name.
10 a.m. Yep.
Thank you.
What do you want to do? September what?
September
27th?
27th.
27th. Saturday at 10 a.m.?
Yeah.
Sounds like a plan. Do you know if I have to say anything? I mean, like,
I don't think you have to, but if you
Well, I
want,
mean-
there's nothing wrong with that.
no, I don't know, like, what the protocol is, I guess, so. I will find out. Too far today.
Town clerk swears them in.
Town clerk's resume, yes.
Thinks you'll
Yep.
swears them in.
Rather be sworn in than sworn out.
So we're just gonna make sure that Emily is also available. I'll let her know.
Okay.
You can say a couple words of them.
Sure.
Yeah.
I will do that. All right. Any other business?
I don't have any other business.
No band is playing at the silent auction.
No, tell me.
Quiet Riot.
Wyatt Ryan. You just make that one up now.
No, man. I'm working under a scene. I'm planning on being funny someday. Like actually make people laugh with me, not laugh at me, but it's gonna be a while. Bear with me. I got 2 or 3 more years to do it, so.
With that said, I don't think there's anything else on our agenda, so, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Sounds like a great idea. I second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh,